Hey folks, back again for another week and another topic that I'm going to cover related to systems thinking. This week, we are going to talk about how to automate a business process. I'm going to give you a framework you can use so that you can go in and take a look at what it is that you're doing and look to identify where and how you want to automate that. Quickly, why would you want to do that? Automation really is the path to efficiency. When you talk about being able to do more with less, at some point you've got to start automating. When you talk about scaling your business or scaling your team, if you want to do that effectively, you need to look at your efficiency first, and that means looking at how do you automate the manual and repetitive tasks that you are doing. Ultimately, that's going to lead to better scaling. It's going to allow you to do more with less, to get more out of what you have, and to build the business and team that you want to have. So let's go ahead and get into the specifics. So let's cover some of the pre-work you need to do before you really get into the meat of doing the automation. If you've got a new process, you want to start that manually first. Don't start trying to automate a brand new process, okay? Lay out the process, lay out the things that you need to get done, lay out your desired outcomes. Start working that process manually at first. You want to do that because in the beginning of a new process, you're going to go through a rapid period of change. You're going to be getting a lot of feedback from anybody and everybody involved. You're going to find that what you thought was the right way to do something needs to be done a little bit differently. And you just need the flexibility to be able to change that process very quickly. And if you go add a bunch of technology and build in a bunch of automation, that's going to slow down your ability to make changes to that process. So start manual if it's a new process. Do it manually and start fine-tuning it. And then once you get to a point where you're not changing the process on a very rapid schedule, now you can start thinking about how do you automate, what do you want to automate, and you can move on to the next steps. If you've got an established process, go through and do some of the documentation work first, some of the process improvement work. Document what it is that you're doing. Look for opportunities to remove waste or non-value added activities from that process. Make sure what you're doing is aligned to the desired outcomes that you want. And then once you've done that, we're ready to move on to the next step. First thing you want to think about when we get to the automation part here, what is it that you want to automate? You want to look at your process, look at what you're doing, and look for the pieces of that process that are good candidates for automation. Now, anything that's done manually is a good candidate for automation. Anything that's done repetitively is a good candidate for automation. So looking through the documentation that you have, looking through your understanding of what is happening in that process, you're able to identify the different parts and pieces where automation is actually going to save you time and save your business or team money. This is also an opportunity if you've got existing automation in the process that you're looking at, look for ways to improve or consolidate the automations that you already have. Okay, what you don't want to end up with if you do this multiple times over the course of a year or two, you don't want to end up with a process that has a piece of automation up front that's done one way and a piece in the middle that's done a different way, and then a piece after that that's done a third way. And you don't want a Frankenstein process that's got all these different little automation pieces in it. That'll be very hard to manage, very hard to improve and adjust and make sure that it's doing what you want for your business. So if you've already got automation in the process that you're looking to add further automation to, look for opportunities to consolidate what it is you're doing and reduce the amount of tech and automation that you have in that process. Once you've identified what it is you want to automate, the next step is to decide how you're going to automate it. You have different options here depending on where your business or team is at and the resources that you have, the skill sets that you have on your team. And that's going to partially dictate how you're able to automate. Additionally, the work that you're doing is going to have some relevance into the opportunities or methods available to you to actually automate that process. If you're looking at automating ditch digging, that's a lot different than if you're looking to automate accounting processes in a retail business. So those are the things that you want to start thinking about deciding how you're going to do the automation is what is the actual work that's happening. If you have existing software in your business, that's a great place to start looking. So many tools that are out there have automation functions to them already. Thinking about things like CRM applications, customer relationship management software. Any of the major players in that space and a lot of the medium-sized and even smaller players have automation tools that are part of the application. So things like Salesforce, it has workflow tools. Mid-range stuff like Zoho has automation tools. So you don't even need to actually go buy other stuff. You can use the software that you already have to build automation. So look first at what you already have and look at the automation opportunities that exist within that software. Now, if you've looked through your business and looked through all the existing software that you have and you don't find what it is that you're looking for, the next step would be to look for new applications that will provide you the functionality that you need. There are a couple of different types of applications. Let me talk through each one of those. First would be something that's purpose-built. Purpose-built applications are designed to do one or more things specific to your business or team. Thinking through a couple of examples, if you take reservations, if you're something like a restaurant or a hair salon, anybody that takes reservations, there's software that's built to help you take and manage reservations. That's an example of purpose-built software. It's designed to do that one thing, designed to do it very well. And just by having that software, a lot of times that in and of itself will help you remove some of the manual stuff that you're doing if you don't have software today. And it will also potentially give you additional tools to build custom automations. So a second type of application that you should look at is automation tools. Automation tools are apps like Zapier, Zoho Flow, Microsoft Flow. There's a lot of other competitors out there that do this same thing. IFTTT is another one. That's an acronym that stands for if this, then that. So it allows you to build logic. If this thing happens, then do this other thing over here. And they all work very similarly and do that same kind of thing. So they allow you to connect two or more applications so that you can automate data moving from one to the other. So here's a real world example. You can use Zapier to connect your email to your CRM application such that anytime you get a new email, you can trigger Zapier to go and look in your CRM application to see if that person exists. If they don't exist, you can then use Zapier to create a new record for that person. If they do exist, you can update their record with whatever information you have. There are literally thousands of applications that you can connect using a tool like Zapier and push data from one to the next or trigger events from one to the next. If I get an email from this person, I can do certain things in other applications just by having a tool like Zapier in between to see that email and then take action in that new application. And that's a really good option once you start looking broadly across a business and you're looking at having processes that involve multiple tools. Something like Zapier or Zoho Flow, Microsoft Flow, those tools will allow you to automate things very quickly and easily without having the need for developers or some of the more expensive options for automating processes. The third tool that I want to talk about is RPA. RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. And this is really, it's a pretty high level tool. What I mean by that is you've got to have some pretty good resources available to you to actually implement an RPA tool. They're not cheap, and the maintenance of them is not cheap. Getting them to actually do things, especially compared to some of the other options out there, you should have a pretty technical staff if you are going to go down the route of using an RPA tool. And most likely you'll need a developer that you keep on staff at least part-time to manage and help with an RPA tool. So what an RPA tool allows you to do is automate the actual work that someone does with software. So the actual button clicks and filling in data into fields, all of the steps that somebody might take to actually use an application. An RPA tool is going to allow you to automate that so that you have, instead of a person using the software, you are building a quote unquote robot to use the software, enter information, do the clicks, whatever it is that software does. So you can do some really cool things with it, but it is something that requires a sizable investment in resources and time to actually be able to implement that in a business. Now, once you've gone through and decided how you're going to automate, the next steps are dependent on the option that you picked. If you've already got everything in-house, then it's just a matter of doing the work, managing change in your business, and delivering the new process with the automation built. If you are getting something outside that you don't already have in your business, you should have some type of process to actually go out and evaluate options, evaluate different software options, make a selection, and then go through implementing that new software in your business and everything associated with implementing software. Now, I do want to call out before I finish up, there is an alternative to true automation with software. And this is something that you should think about depending on where you're at, what your business is doing, what resources you have available, what's really important to you. An alternative to actually building automation would be to think about people doing the work instead. Now, I know that doesn't make any sense, right? We're trying to get people out of doing this work, but think about it from this perspective. One option is outsourcing. If you have a lot of manual work that either you're doing yourself as a business owner or you've got very expensive resources in your business doing, you have the opportunity to identify work that you can outsource, especially if you can move it to a low-cost labor market and have that work done at a cheaper cost. So you still get some cost savings there. You don't overly commit to a specific technology. You don't have all of the spending that comes with buying and implementing software. It's a great alternative to consider depending on your circumstances. It might be better for you to outsource some of that work that you're doing. Another option that you can consider, and this is more useful if you have a larger team, you can look to bring in a resource that is a lower cost than the resources that you already have. Now, as an example, if you're managing a team of different project managers and say you've got 10 of them, if you can go in and take the easiest 10% of the work that they're each doing, you then could potentially hire a project coordinator that's going to cost you half of what a really good project manager is going to cost you, and have that project coordinator take 10% from each of those people. Now you have reduced the cost that it takes you to do that work, even though you haven't actually automated it yet. You've just shifted that work to a lower cost resource. So those are two things to consider on your journey to automation, depending on where you're at, what stage you're at, and what resources you have available. Something like that might be a better decision for you than going and adding technology to your environment at this time. That covers the topic of business automation for today. As usual, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can email me at brian@optimizeforoutcomes.com. If you're looking for help in automating your business or adding automation to your business or team, let's have a conversation. Reach out to me and we can talk through how I can help you. So that does it for me today, folks. Thanks, and I will see you online.